Hey there, it's Walter here. Welcome aboard. And we're going to talk about one of the naked Forex principles. So there are three things we know with our trading. It's a system that fits our beliefs and that makes money, obviously, has a positive expectancy. Thing number two is that our risk management goals will achieve, our risk management rules will achieve our goals, what we're trying to achieve, what we're trying to get, and what we're trying to avoid. And number three is that our psychology is set up correctly. So that means that when we experience emotions, we know how to cope with those. A lot of that has to do with resiliency, and we'll talk more about that in another video. And also knowing how to keep on track, which is for trading, it turns out it's just about execution. So psychology comes down to managing your emotions and your beliefs and your psychology. Let's talk about right now one very simple naked trading strategy or principle that applies to almost all of the setups in the book. I don't know if you've read Naked Forex. It doesn't matter if you have or not. But what I want to do now is share my screen. It's going to get a little bit weird now for a second. And then I think if I've got this right, I do believe that you should see my screen. And this would be the Euro. No, the Aussie. Yes, Aussie daily chart. This is Forex Tester, where I do my simulation testing, get my stats, figure out if a system's worth testing or not. Now, in the Naked Forex book, doesn't matter if you've read it or not. I talk about the kangaroo tail and the big shadow. Let's see if we can find any here. There's one. There's a kangaroo tail there, but this one doesn't have any space. This is what we call a trendy kangaroo tail. It's with the trend. There's another one. I don't think that's quite a big shadow. There's a big shadow. There's a kangaroo tail outside of support. There's a big shadow right there with the trend. So let me share with you why this principle of space is so important. So we have a candle down here, which is not really let's just go forward. Let's just go forward. And this right here would be a big shadow, but it's not the biggest candle of the last 7 candles. This one actually has a wider range, so it wouldn't quite qualify. That's a big shadow, but it doesn't have any space. Now, what is space? Space is when you're looking, if you're a reversal trader or you're a swing trader, you'll look for space. If you're a trend trader, it's not as important, and you will look at it slightly differently. So let me see if I can find either a reversal setup or with the trend setup, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Closest thing we have to one is this candle right here. This is a big shadow, but like I said, because it's not the largest candle of the last 7 candles or so, that this candle has a wider range, so that disqualifies that one. Otherwise, it would have been a nice setup. Looks quite good, hindsight being what it is. There's one. Now this is a trendy kangaroo tail. You might even draw a trend line here. That's not actually part of I didn't really talk about trend lines in that book, but mostly because everyone draws them differently. But what you would see here, more importantly, is the horizontal level was pierced by this candle. And so this is a trendy kangaroo tail. I'll put a buy stop above the high there. I'll put my stop loss down below the low. And this is a potential setup. If it doesn't go in the next 2 candles, I will delete my order. Okay, it went straight away. So that's a trendy kangaroo tail. Now, what's interesting about this is space doesn't matter. See how I like to use these boxes to show you what space is. Space is this idea of how much of the candle or the setup, whether it's a 1 candle or 2 candle setup, how much of it has printed at a unique area of the chart where the market hasn't been for a long time. The answer is only this much of the candle, and really, it's the market recently printed there. Why? Because it's in an uptrend. If you're in an uptrend and you're taking trendy kangaroo tails or trendy big shadows, you'll notice that a lot of the time, those candles aren't going to have a lot of space. They're just going to have about this much space, as you can see right here. This one actually has quite a bit of space for a trendy kangaroo tail. Now let's keep going here and see if we can find another either trendy or reversal setup. This would be a reversal setup. This would technically qualify as a kangaroo tail. The question is, does it have any space? And the answer is it does. Very little space here, this much of the candle. So there is a little bit of space here, not much, but technically the last time the candle printed here, this is, by the way, We are trading in 2012 here. August 2012 is where this chart comes from. The last time it actually printed over here was March 2012. So it's been a good, 8 months or 5 months or so since the market's been there. On the daily chart, that's a long time. So what I might do is just close this bad boy that I've got open right now. By the way, if this stuff interests you, if you like trading naked, if you like these principles, if this makes sense to you, you might be interested in the small account big profits course. You can click the link below this video or above this video and get information about that. So I'm going to put my sell stop right here, put my stop loss on the other side of the kangaroo tail up here. 65 pips. That's a pretty tight stop, even for the Aussie dollar. And we're in, and we're going to get stopped out. No, we're not. No, we're not. Yes, we are. Never know. Now, to hit the trend line, this will be interesting. This looks like it's going to break through the trend line, but I could be wrong. Also, notice that it printed another kangaroo tail here, and guess what? It doesn't have any space. Look at that. It's not on a support resistance level. This one was, the one that I took, and it doesn't really have any space. So not really a nice looking setup, and this has fallen. I'm going to go ahead and close this one out, but I want to just 365 pips. That's pretty good for 65 pips of risk. I just want to make sure that everyone's clear on why I'm showing you this. A lot of times people will say, hey, Walter, that kangaroo tail didn't work, or why did you take that one and not that one? And the reason usually comes down to space, believe it or not. Interestingly enough, a lot of the time, the reason why traders, when traders look at setups and say, well, why did you take this kangaroo tail up here? Well, one, it was on support resistance. This one was not. And two, this one didn't really have any space because this candle printed mostly in an area where the previous two candles printed. Now, it did have a little bit of space, but I pull it back and I just hit that. So at best, this would be a trendy kangaroo tail, but I prefer trendy kangaroo tails that look more like this one. This one's much nicer because it hangs a little bit lower than these candles, and it's on a pullback, whereas this one, I guess you could call it a bit of a pullback, but it doesn't stick out from the recent candles as nearly as much as this one does. So to me, that's not worth it. And if I were to look for another trade here, let's just do one more. Well, that was it, actually. That was the one. I just skipped right over it. But this is a bullish big shadow right here. The candle printed on support and resistance. It has a higher high. It has a lower low. And the next candle would have gone. So I should have probably taken that one. I didn't know it was going to come up like that. So this one goes right back up to your support resistance level right there. So that would have been, had I taken it, and I know I didn't, but I should have if I was paying attention, that would have been a 90 pips of risk for 320, 330 pips of reward. So that's kind of what they look like. So this concept of space is really important if you like to trade swing trades. If you like to trade with the trend, it's not as critical, but I still pay attention to it. And the reason why I pay attention to it is because I think it's a good way to distinguish okay trades from really good trades. Really good trades have space. They've printed on support and resistance. It's an area where the market hasn't traded in a long time. Subpar trades don't print on support and resistance. In fact, those can flat out be losers as a losing strategy. And at least what I've found, my testing and my trading has found that if I trade kangaroo tails, big shadows off of support and resistance, it's not nearly as good. So I wouldn't recommend that. So hopefully this helps. I wish you happy trading. If you want to join us in Small Accounts, Big Profits, it's still open. And I'll see you soon. Okay, take care. Bye. See you in another video. See ya.